welcome everyone to another episode of Wednesday Night Live. Joining us tonight is Matthew Bailey. Is that correct pronunciation?
Milby.
Milby. He runs a vape shop in Maryland. I got it close. Called the Smoke Free Nation. He is also the VP of the Maryland Vapor Alliance, Inc., and has been involved in state local advocacy for the past 4 years. Welcome to the show, Matthew.
Thank you.
Just a heads up. I got a heads up for tonight's show. Just to let everybody know that we are sharing this episode of Wednesday Night Live and the next two episodes of Wednesday Night Live on my personal Facebook page. So please, also on YouTube and our group page. And the reason I'm doing this is to share with non-vapors our story, what our community and industry has been going through the last 10 years. So with that being said, please respect each other and share facts and not BS, okay? This is a time to educate the general public and help them better understand why we fight. Okay, guys, so a little respect. You might have some non-vapors out there, somebody that may have questions and has been lied to for many, many, many years. Show a little bit of respect. Share facts, share knowledge with these individuals. No cussing, no yelling back and forth. But it's really, really important for me that my friends and anyone else where this link is shared to their personal Facebook page, that they get the same respect that we show each other. So help them understand why we're in this battle. So let's get this show started by me saying hello to Matthew, of course, and my amazing team, Tim, Brian, and Mr. Wisconsin, a.k.a. Milk Comes in a Bag, Tommy Boy. Welcome, Tom. How's your week gone, brother?
It's going pretty good. I got a new gun safe. Pretty excited about that.
Got a new safe.
Hey, I want to say hey to everybody in chat. Captain Nasty, Troop, Nick, Mike, everybody else that's there, Mallory. Hi to everybody else that's here.
I got a quick question for you, Tom.
What do you got?
When are you going to build a panic room?
Who says I don't have one already?
That's a great question. Like a Jodie Foster type friggin' panic room.
Who says I don't have a bunker out?
You might have one out.
Yeah, you don't know.
You might have one. He's not going to. He's not going to disclose the look. Yeah, he's not going to disclose the location of his panic room in his house.
No, because I don't want all kinds of people showing up.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Well, I'm glad you're having a good week, Tommy boy. And let's check in with the rock and roller of the group. we don't need to know much more about Tommy's week. That's enough.
No, it's pretty simple.
Tom's life is always pretty much like paint by the numbers.
Yeah,
like I got up, I worked, and then I went to bed. That's
my life.
That's Tom. I forgot he vapes in between all of that.
Yeah.
He
of course. Yeah, he
right.
goes cow-tip in occasionally and drinks milk out of a bag.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's very true. I'm good, man. I finally think that my life has somehow found its way back to some form of semblance in terms of, the deficiencies I was experiencing for a little bit of time there. So I got my truck back finally after quite the saga, and then got my AC fixed on Friday. Sort of an 11th hour kind of repair. Like they said, the windows 1 to 4. So I left work early to work from home, and I got home, and I kid you not, I sat here watching the clock. I had my Nest camera on, thinking, I'll wait and see the truck pull up and all that, and nothing. And 4 o'clock is slowly the arm is getting up to 4, and I'm like, they're not coming. They're not coming. FML, they're not coming. I'm going to get that call from dispatch that says they got hung up. We're going to have to reschedule. Yeah, sure, put your life on hold because, we couldn't follow through. Literally, like at 4 o'clock, this pickup truck kind of like does like one of those casing the joint kind of slow passes like 2 different times. Finally, the guy pulls in the driveway, and I'm like, oh, my God, thank God they're here. And out of the pickup truck, brand new like Chevy whatever, Santa Claus got out. I swear,
he looked
Santa
like Santa
Claus. Yes, Santa Claus got out of the cab, and he waddles up to my front door, and I just looked at myself and I said, It's going to be a long afternoon, boys. It's going to be a long afternoon. Turns out I open the door and he comes in. He goes, well, I don't actually do any work. He goes, I just supervise. The other guys are on their way. And I'm like, whoo, I hope that the other guys don't look, like Rip Van Winkle and, whatever.
You're hoping they weren't elves, is what you were hoping for.
I would have taken elves at that point. At least they're robust workers. I mean, the Keebler kids, they're making cookies in the tree in the middle of the night. The other dudes are cobbling shoes in the middle of the night. Worker bees. But Santa had me a little worried there. I was like, it must be the off season. I can tell. I can see. You put on a couple extra.
Now we know. Now we know what he does on the off season. And
yep.
All the way from North Dakota, joining us on time tonight. Welcome, Mr. Brian Power.
Hey, yeah, I've been a little busy the last few weeks. Stuff happened, things happened, but so I'm back.
You got a haircut too.
Yeah, well, that's what took so long.
Oh, good for you, man.
They had to fly the barber in from somewhere else.
I know.
Brian has a special barber.
No,
I had to schedule it, get him on private plane, find a landing, make a landing strip. That whole thing.
Well, he had to call ahead of time.
Make sure they avoid that one tree in North Dakota.
No, yeah, the one tree in North Dakota, and to let the guy know he needs those really good scissors to cut Brian's hair because of all that gel he puts in there. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, well, that's the thing is that when he flew in, he forgot the scissors. He had to fly out to go get them and come back again. So, I mean, it is what it is.
Oh. And our guest tonight, Matthew, how's your week going, brother?
I mean, it's going all right. We're doing the best we can with the given circumstances. See some familiar faces in the chat. I see Jerry is my business partners in the chat, and that's Nick Orlando and Troop. So,
and you have the cream of the crop in chat. I mean, you got Nick Orlando, you got Cloud Queen, you got Captain Nasty, you got Luke in the chat. I mean, he is a legend. Just absolute. Curtis is in there. Curtis is absolute legend. You got the cream of the crop watching you tonight. So.
Yeah, you got the. I won't call them any bad names. They're good people. Curtis, I don't know. So your week's going well. Are you in panic mode at any point in time this week, or?
I'm so used to this since the deeming regs came out and our first bill that was introduced into Maryland. It was like, oh shit, and then the next year another bill, and we're like, oh shit. So it's just another oh shit week. That we know what's coming. We know what's been coming. We know what can possibly happen. I mean, at this point, nothing's going to really surprise me.
Yeah, nothing's going to surprise you.
We've been fighting this fight for 4 years. Right now it's business as usual, and we're going to keep fighting, and we got plans in the works. So
yeah. Well, for a couple of the non-vapors that are going to join the show, I kind of put something together. It's a little long-winded, but it's a little bit of a timeline. I call it the vaping timeline of death is what I'm calling it. So if I miss anything, I was trying to go back as far as I can in my memory and doing a little research, but I kind of want to show the process that we have been going through basically for the last 11 to 12 years. So I'm going to kind of just read through this and as quickly as I can. It all begins in 1998. Why, guys? Why does it begin in 1998? It's called
because you want to party like it's 1999.
No, well, yeah, that too. And it is a little thing called MSA. For anyone that doesn't know what MSA stands for, that is the Master Settlement Agreement. What the Master Settlement Agreement does is actually is an agreement between our local, or let's say federal and state, right? Well, it was supposed to be federal, but it's state, really. An agreement for every pack of cigarettes sold in your state. So basically, for every pack of cigarettes sold in your state government gets a percentage of that, which the CDC allocates to go towards harm reduction programs within your state. But yes, Tim is shaking his head. He knows where I'm going with that one. That one comes back. We're coming back to that one. 2014, the vaping community begins to grow. And this is the growing point of vaping. This is when I think it starts to make a move. We start getting noticed in 2014. The growing rate is 12%. The rate of adult vapors starts to grow, which is shocking not only to big tobacco, but our government as well, which means a loss of revenue to big tobacco as well as individual states associated with the MSA agreement. Everything, you're going to notice, everything goes back to 1998, guys. Everything goes back to that and why our government did what they did throughout the last 12 years of this. 2016, the FDA vaping policy. The government, the FDA together declared e-liquid a tobacco product. The reason this is important, it goes right back to the beginning, guys, in the timeline, MSA. And it's a way of getting more money for lost revenue due to people making the switch to vaping. 2017, states start looking for ways to use the new vaping policy to keep MSA money coming in. This is the beginning. This is when we started seeing not so much statewide, but citywide flavor bans. This is when everybody started these small little towns in San Diego. I can't name some of all the other smaller towns throughout the country, but this is San Francisco. This is the biggest reason for these states jumping in was that they borrowed money against the money they assumed they were going to get each year from MSA money. And guess what? They borrowed money against that. It's time to pay back those loans. They don't have money for that. 2018, the FDA actually, I was telling Tom, I was laughing because 2018 is basically the only year that we kind of had a break. We didn't win anything. We didn't lose anything. But 2018, the FDA decides on vaping products and decides to delay on vaping products, giving the industry some hope, but not really. I mean, right? 2018, we kind of were playing on a level playing field. Nothing was really happening. Nothing was changing. 2019, Evale. Did I say it correctly, Tom? Evale. Tim, did I say it right?
I think it's interchangeable. Evale,
I
whatever.
said Evale.
Can you put up the little blurb from Cloud Queen there just to
in a minute?
People
I will,
can
Tim.
read that.
In a minute. It's the so-called link to vaping, which was misdiagnosed not only by doctors but the CDC, and the FDA, also which they took very little responsibility for the deaths they could have avoided if the truth have actually got to the general public. That's a big one because that kind of starts the ball rolling for our federal government to start doing things, local government, your governors. 2019, states uses the misinformation of Evale to pursue and force government executive orders on state flavor bans, like states like New York, Michigan, Delaware, Massachusetts, to name a few, forcing small businesses to shut their doors and costing thousands of people their livelihood and jobs. FDA PMTAs 2019. That's when it basically started, right? I think I got the date right on when it supposedly started. They thought this would kill the industry, but only showed the FDA and our government how united this industry and the community is when it came to saving lives. The FDA was hammered with millions of documents needed for these companies to move forward, so much so that the FDA asked for help going through the millions of applications they had gotten. And then 2020 USPS vaping ban, our government attempt to killing online sales and vaping products by forcing USPS not to ship vaping products. This ban was to go through April of this year and has yet to be decided or enforced. And the last one, 2021, which we're at now, the nicotine tax, yet another attempt for killing the industry and guaranteeing MSA money keeps flowing in. This law goes right back to number one. This goes right back to the MSA agreement. This is just their way of finding. They realize they can't take us out of the picture, so let's try to get as much money as we can possibly get from this, guys. And that's the last one. So when you say our government is stupid and you don't understand, and they don't understand what we're doing, think again. They know exactly what they're doing when it comes to money. I just wanted to get that out there. It's just kind of, did I get the timeline right? I mean, I had a hard
I think
time.
the PMTA thing, you had a little off time because the September 9th ruling came this year, and 2020 was the filing deadline for the PMTA.
Right, but when it was initiated, it was 2019.
Yeah, that's when they kind of, the deeming regs went in and they finally
Right.
told everybody what they have to do in order to file the paperwork.
Yeah, so it's just kind of a quick breakdown and timeline for those that are we're going to watch this later to kind of understand what we've been going through for the last 12 years and how everything goes back to MSA. And the reason I bring that MSA is number one because as Matthew knows, they are getting ready to try to renegotiate a new master settlement agreement, and they want to add e-liquids to that agreement, which is just another way of them saying we can't get rid of you, but we're going to get some money from you guys out there. And it's all about profits, not about our health, profits. Matthew, you got something you look like you want to say? Go ahead.
Oh, your memory is so much better than mine. If you were to ask me a timeline, it would be messed up beyond belief. But you're exactly right. It's one more thing they're shoving at us. One more thing we got to fight. And one more thing that people are looking at and going, well, this tax is going to make vaping unaffordable for every vapor. I mean, $20 on a bottle of 3 milligrams, 40 on 6, 80 on 12 milligrams. Come on.
Right. And their reasoning is they want to make a bottle of e-liquid the same price as a pack of cigarettes. That's the goal. That is basically the goal. So
smoking is going to be cheaper. I mean,
if you do the numbers, I mean, vaping will be the harm reduction method will cost more than the deadly alternative.
Yeah. Well, I want let me pull up my notes here. Is that the question that you wanted me to pull up there, Tim?
No, I think it was a fair thing to add because really that it's kind of like the MSA is like a massive non-disclosure agreement. That's what it's based on. Because when all the big tobacco knuckleheads got up in front of Congress and said, "Oh no, smoking is totally harmless," and then years later people started dropping like flies and dying of cancer. That this is the agreement that the government and big tobacco came to basically, get money from the tobacco companies so they couldn't be sued, so the government wouldn't pursue after them. So it was an important element to add to the whole equation.
They're the government. They're here to help. Come on.
Yeah, right, they're here to help us. They're here to help you. They're here to lend.
Got your better interest in mind.
Yeah, they're here to lend you a hand. They're here to lend you a hand. Let's get into let's talk a little bit about you. Let everybody know what you've been doing and what you're associated with. And I have some of the links for everybody. For everything Matthew is associated with, and I'll have those posted in the chat. Go ahead, Matthew.
Well, thanks for posting that stuff.
Yeah.
Now, if you want, I can go into the campaign that we're doing. You want me to go into that too?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm with the Alliance. Like I said, we've been fighting this fight at the state level for 4 years now. This is when the VTA actually came to us and wanted us to form a state organization. And we were like, well, we'll think about it, And then legislation hit. It was a licensing bill that would have put all vape shops in Maryland out of business. And so we're like, okay, we got to do this. And we got an organization together. I mean, I drove down to Baltimore and filed all the articles of incorporation and all that stuff needed and got us organized and then got a set of bylaws in place, got a lobbyist, and then we were at the Annapolis, Maryland, fighting the fight, and we did a lot of work on this bill, got stuff rearranged, and on the 11th hour, someone lied and put in a ban on vape mail. And so we had to go to the comptroller's office and get him to not enforce it. And the next session we repealed it. And then there was a flavor ban next session. And it's just been a constant array of different bills that we've defeated over the years. And we've done a very good job at the state level. We even had, the public health people were pulling no punches. And so we did the same. When we actually had a panel of our children come and testify in the state of Maryland, including my daughter. And it was very well received. We don't want mommy and daddy to die from cigarettes, and they don't smell like smoke anymore. It was just very honest representation. And our latest flavor ban bill that we saw as a real threat. We actually did a postcard campaign because we talked to our legislators and they flat out told us, we don't read form emails. we don't pay attention to all this stuff. Like when you see calls to action and everybody fills out, add your name, send it in. Like, we don't care. We want to hear from real constituents. So we go, okay, we did a postcard campaign. And what it was is it had a message on the front, like stop the flavor ban or something. And on the back, you had a place where you could put your name and address showing what legislative district you're in and your message to the legislator. We had 2 weeks to get this done. And we, between the Maryland Vapor Alliance, we filled out more than 5,000 postcards. And our lobbyists photocopied them all, sorted them in their legislative districts, and delivered them to the legislators. And then the day that we testified, and it was a hurried up day, things were changing. We were there all day long. We had all these postcards, and we put them all over the table where we were testifying at. And, you know, I could say with confidence that this is directly from your constituents, their addresses, where they're from, their message. The people of Maryland do not want this. And it was a very effective tool that we used. Now, fast forward to this past week with the tax going on, we were I'm in a group with a bunch of other state leaders, and you know, we're rolling over ideas, and it's like, what can we do in the interim before bigger plans come out that we can take action on? And those bigger plans are in the works yet, and I'm sure. I mean, you know, Nick's in the chat, and when these things come to fruition, he would love to talk about them. But in the interim, what can we do as vapors to let Congress know this is unacceptable?
Right.
So I posted, and I gave you the link to the postcard that I made on Vista.
Right. I got that one. I'm going to put that one up here in a second. Yeah.
And anybody can use exactly like that. You can edit it, make it your own, whatever. But our goal is to get that in the hands of consumers and spread the word. And that's one of the main reasons I've been trying to get people on different shows like this, is to spread the word. And there's really 3 things you can do. Right now, there's a link for CASA. They have a call to action on this tax.
Yeah, we're going to go through that. Yeah,
and that's easy to do. And then you can download the postcard yourself. You can print it out yourself on paper, printed right from your printer. There's a lot of vape shops that are going to be participating in this. I just ordered 1,000 cards for my shop, and we're paying the postage. Like my vape shop, we're going to be printing out labels to which congressional district you're in, stamping it, throwing the mail. And the goal is to flood Congress, our congressional reps, with tens of thousands of these postcards. And so we're going to send a very clear message to him that this is unacceptable. And that's kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I have the link. It's a long one, guys. So, but I posted it. It's on my page, and I'm not sure. Can somebody check to see how did it go through on YouTube? I know YouTube is pretty picky about links, so
I see it.
The second one that you did, where it's the HTTPS, that part, if you click on that, will take you to the postcard.
Okay, but the first one doesn't, right?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, see, sometimes they'll let me slide on those, but it is on the YouTube. It is on the Facebook side, so I'll figure out how to get it to work on YouTube. Might have to shorten it somehow, Matthew, to get it to work. The first one, yeah. This
Morgan is also saying it went through. So
okay, the postcard does go through. So if you click on that link, it'll take you to the site to download and print the postcard. So, all right. You guys have any? Let me get my questions up. But if you guys have some questions, go ahead, jump in there.
Yeah, and I think after questions, there's actually a second initiative I'm gonna talk about after we can answer any questions about postcards. So
right, yeah. Now finish up on that. On the Iowa one, is that which one? Okay.
Yes, absolutely. So something we can do in the interim also is that, you know, our opponents, Big Tobacco, and they're very well funded. They are relentless in their messaging. I mean, I was told that the video game streamers on Twitch are getting paid to run anti-vaping ads.
Yeah.
I mean, they're everywhere. And us as the vaping community has been very inconsistent in messaging over the years. We have spouts of where we hit it hardcore when something happened, and then we die off, and then pop back up and then die off. And other organizations have done good PR campaigns and then ran out of money. So what we're trying to do, I've been working with Heather over the Iowa Vaping Association, and they're putting out 2 posts a day on their Facebook page. And they're going to be scientific-y posts, things that are real data from real studies. We have a few members in our group that have a Google Drives full of studies that are peer-reviewed. And they're asking everyone to share it on your Facebook page, your personal Facebook page. If you have a business, share it on your business page. Go to Twitter or any other social media platforms that you can. And we've only been doing it a few days. And we had a meeting the other day, and Heather was sharing the results from just a little bit we've done so far. And she's like, people are responding. This is gaining traction. We're going to keep doing it. And it's going to be a 4-week campaign. And then we'll reevaluate after those 4 weeks. So these are simple, easy, almost free things that people can do to help out vaping. I mean, there's no reason not to do it at this point.
Right.
Yeah, we're at that point where nobody should no longer say, "Oh, don't waste your time doing that. Don't waste your time doing this." It's go time now. Whatever you have to do, like we talked about it here. Everybody's on the PC, everybody's on the cell phone. Autofill's already checked. You don't have to do much.
Yep.
Click the box. It's going to be
so
all
easy.
filled out for you. So easy. And I posted the Facebook group page for the Iowa Vape Association. That's on there, guys. If you want to head on over there, not now, but later, and check out what they've got going on. I want you to go ahead and talk a little bit and let everybody understand exactly how this new tax is going through. And I am going to, as you're doing that, I'm going to pull up the CASA page. So.
Yeah, I mean, this tax, I don't know all the details about this tax, but it was introduced, and I believe that the Ways and Means Committee, Congress, and I just looked at what I vape. I vape mostly 60 mils, 3 milligrams, and if I buy a bottle it's going to add $10 to the price of my e-liquid. And if you vape 6 milligram, it's going to add $20. 12 milligrams, I believe it's $80. So if you're going to buy a 60 mil of 12 milligram e-liquid, that's going to cost you $80 plus what the shop charges. It's going to be around $100 or more for a 60 mil of e-liquid at 12 milligrams. And as it goes up in size, all the way from 10 mil, 30 mil, 60 mil, 120 mil, the tax just scales from there. And there's some math about how they arrived at those numbers. And to me, that really doesn't matter. I don't care. Yeah. It's the fact that you're expecting people to pay this amount just in tax, which is far more than the product even costs to manufacture and retail. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And nobody can, your average Joe cannot afford it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to drive.
I don't have word for how ridiculous it is.
Yeah, it's going to drive people back to smoking because they're just not. And it's just people are going to have a hard time. Shops are going to close down, so you're not going to have that easy access where you can walk into a shop and get a bottle of e-juice, even though you're going to pay $80 for it. That shop might not be there because they just can't afford to stay in business.
Well, not to mention the PMTA MDOs that you pile on top of all that. What flavors, what brands will be available. We can always talk about the alternative that they're thinking about transitioning to in order to keep it there, but I believe that tax also covered that as well.
Right.
And this is right after President Biden said we're not going to impose taxes on people that make less than $400,000 a year. Well, what is this?
This is it.
This is a tax on the middle class and below. I'm sorry. For the majority.
And then it shocked me to watch C-SPAN and then actually see a vaping question thrown at his aide. What's her name? I can't remember her name. Redhead. Who's the redhead?
Saki.
Yeah.
She wants to circle back.
Yeah. Circle back.
Yeah. It did. I don't know if you guys saw that clip, but it was kind of shocking for an actual reporter to ask a question on vaping, and
Well, can
she
we
was
talk about
shocked.
that? Can we talk
Yeah,
about it
yeah,
for a minute though? Because
yeah.
I mean, obviously, we've got our bubble to talk
Right.
about, right? Because we're all about vaping and we're all about getting people to turn away from cigarettes using this form of tobacco harm reduction. But it's nicotine across the board, right? So it's going to impact cigarettes. It's even going to impact cigars, which have, for the most part, kind of skirted being kind of touched at all. They somehow, have been so debonair of a product that they've been able to, they're going to be affected. It's going to impact smokeless tobacco products, chews,
Snuff.
dips, snus, cigarella, like you name it. And then you have to ask the basic question too is, how is that going to impact any other form of tobacco harm reduction like NRTs? Those have nicotine in them, right? Patches, gums, all that stuff too. So everything is getting kind of pummeled by this. Although vaping is the redheaded stepchild, no pun
Right.
intended, no Saki reference, but we're the one that's getting punished the most because that's the one that they want to get rid of. And then it goes back to your point, John, that
Yeah.
the person that's green to vaping or just recently discovered it or someone who's demographically challenged, the online market is still there. I mean, luckily we're still able to get things online. No offense to the vape shops who are doing the good work on boots on the ground kind of stuff at the local level. But there are going to be people that just don't have access to vape shops. They're going to be compromised by what they can't really get online anymore, depending on how hard it is to get it. So those are the people that are going to real quickly just be like, well, I'll just go down to the cash and carry and just get a carton of cigarettes and just go back to my old ways. And that's ultimately, unfortunately, kind of like what they're gunning for. Like, because you notice they don't really, I think cigarettes got raised from what, $1 a pack to $2 a pack.
Right.
I mean, Australians already pay the most insane amount of money for a pack of cigarettes I think I could possibly fathom.
Yeah.
People will pay
We'll
to
pay.
continue to smoke.
Yep.
I'm going to go ahead and put the CASA link. It's in the chat there. I'm also going to put it on the Facebook side here. Hold on.
I also talked to Alex Clark a little bit ago of CASA, and I can also send you. They have a QR code that will go direct to the call to action.
Right. Yeah, I'm going to show them how to do it right now.
Yeah.
That's what. Yeah, I was going to show. Yeah. So for those that are non-vapors that are watching the show and they want to learn a little bit more about this tax and how it's going to affect everything, you're going to go to CASA.org and you're going to go right up here. I got to switch screens where it says "Get Involved," and you want to go nationally. And you're going to click that and you're going to scroll down and you're going to see right here. And these are all the current calls to action that are going on currently right now. And this is the big one, is the vape tax. So this is still in limbo. We still haven't got a yay or nay from USPS or FedEx or anybody yet. So, but this is the big one. So you're going to go to Get Involved, you look for the nationally, click on that one, and this will give you a complete breakdown of what Matthew was talking about as far as how the tax affects per milligram of nicotine in each bottle. And that's down here. And again, this is the call to action. Whether you're a vapor or not a vapor, nobody wants to be taxed the shit out of. And this is basically what's happening, guys, is they're trying to find a way to make up for the loss of people quitting smoking and switching over to a more harmless. Can I say that?
Harmless, safer.
Yeah. And it's simple. If you're not a vapor and you want to learn a little bit more about what's going on, this is a great place to get a lot of your information. But this will break down what Matthew was talking about per milligram, the nic strength, and how much it's going to go up. And it's the quick breakdown of it. I think that one's pretty good. It kind of the 100 milligram one, that's going to be
the DIYers.
The DIYers, your shop, but most of us are within this 3 to 24 milligrams. So this is a complete breakdown of 10 mils. 3 milligrams is going to go up $1.67 per milligram, correct? That's how it's going to work. So Again, 6 milligrams will go up $3.34 per milligram of nicotine. So this is what's happening to us. And I wanted to do the show on my page today, and hopefully some of the people that are like, oh, this is stupid, this is ridiculous, and I want them to also understand that, look at this panel. We're not 21 years old. We're not 25 years old. We're in our 30s, 40s, and 50s. We have vapors in their 60s and 70s that are getting started. The face of vaping is not a 18, 16-year-old, a 23-year-old. These are people that are actually trying to quit an addictive habit. And this is something that's working for us. And the importance of flavors and nicotine for us is what we need, and they're trying to take it away from us. So,
and keep in mind too, I mean, the average vapor, especially the panel here, outside of your periodical pod system that you might use Nick salts in as like a filler here and there, we're in the 3 to 6 milligram range the majority of the time, and that is significantly lower than just a single cigarette, which is around 24. So if when they talk about nicotine being so addictive, and I mean, we're already cut down from where we were in our smoking days. So this is the face of vaping that you don't see when you see the propaganda on Facebook and out in the media and all that, is they're really talking about Juul, which is like 60 milligrams per milliliter, and the average vapor is not going to touch that. That's for somebody who's just starting to getting off smoking, and they're a pack to 2 pack a day smoker, and they need a little extra to kind of help kick the habit, right? So keep that in mind.
Oh, I don't even want to know what the tax would be on a 55-gallon drum of nicotine.
It would the cost of another country. Wigwam made a very important point earlier in the thing, and I'm glad he brought it up, and I'll just kind of emphasize on it, and that is that the part of advocacy
there we go.
that is tough is trying to get the other people, the new vapors and the uneducated vapors on board and following suit. So, make sure you encourage them. I have 2 guys at work that are vapors, and they don't know a whole lot. Like, they're just worried why their Aegis Mini doesn't work, and so I sat them down and showed them the CASA website. But I just, it's an important thing. We need, if you're not pissed off with the MDOs and the PMTAs and them basically taking away some of your favorite brands of e-liquids potentially, this ought to piss you off even further. If you didn't want to advocate then, and you still don't want to after all of this other stuff, you'd be blowing my mind right now. You'd be blowing my mind.
Be furious right now. Not only that the FDA is about to shut down thousands of small businesses all over the country, and God knows how many jobs, but they're going to take away something that you're using that you believe is saving your life. And they're going to tax it to the point where it's going to drive you back to something that is going to kill you. I mean, I'm furious as hell.
Yep. One of the things we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, and I think too with some non-vapors watching us, is letting them understand the process that we go through. Yes, most of us here in the panel started with 18, 24.
24, 36 in the old days.
I think a lot of vapors, like Tim's saying, or non-vapors, think we're all walking around with Juuls and we're all vaping 50 milligrams. Again, like Tim said, that is a starting point for most. You're supposed to go buy that Juul and start at that level and work your way down. I've been vaping for now 10 years, a couple days ago, and I started at 24 milligrams, and I'm down to 3. I could go to 0, but I'm not a nice person at 0. So
let's take a moment and celebrate John hitting 10 years.
Yay!
Congrats, sir!
Congratulations!
Yeah. So, we'll start with Tom. Tom, what did you start out with, and what are you at currently now?
I started at 6 and 12, and I'm down to 3.
3.
And if I drop to 0, like you said, I will not be a nice person.
I'm not a nice person.
No.
Tim, where'd you start at?
I was in the 24 to 36 milligram range, only because the devices at the time were more MTL driven, mouth to lung, more like a cigarette kind of vaping experience, and so the nic levels could be higher. But I float between 3 and 6.
3 and 6. And Brian, what'd you start out with, and what are you currently vaping?
I started at 24, and I went down to 12 very quickly after that. And then currently now actually am on 3, and I will use a little pod device with 25 milligrams here and there, but mainly 3.
Yeah. And Matthew, where'd you start at?
I started off at 24, quickly went down to 12 using a little stick device, discovered dripping, went down to 6, then quickly to 3, and I've stayed there for a long time.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I think that's what they don't understand. And that's the difference between, we want you guys to understand out there, that's the difference between smoking and vaping. When you're smoking, you're constantly smoking 24 milligrams for 20, 30. I don't know. I smoked for 20 something years. This is a way to wean yourself out of tobacco, out of nicotine. And a lot of people have done it, have gone to zero. There are some people I know that you guys know. How many people you guys know that has actually put it down, got to zero, and just stopped? There's
Several
several
that actually finally walked away. Yeah,
I know quite a few myself.
Yeah. And that's the difference. You're not going to get with the patches and the gum. You're going to constantly keep throwing. I probably, if I had to put both of them next to each other, I probably chewed the shit out of that gum more than I vape today. I'm only 10 millimeters. I do about 10 mils a day. So, at 3. So that's all I do all day. And if I were still chewing that gum, God, I'd probably have to buy stock in that gum because I was just chewing the shit out of it. I mean,
yeah, and it's not as successful as vaping when you do put the numbers on paper. I mean, vaping has about anywhere from an 8 to 15% success rate compared to like 4 to 6 on an NRT, and that's not including Chantix and the other medications that they'd throw around out there. So, by and large, vaping has been more successful than all of those other ones effectively combined.
Right. Brian, Mr. Powers, North Dakota, the guy with the new haircut. You got a question for Matthew?
So yeah, actually, I always got questions. You should know that.
I know.
So when you went through all your stuff up there before, and you kind of decided like this might fit in a grander scale, how did you go about like talking to everybody and trying to fit like the pieces together?
as far as like the postcard campaign and us deciding to do it. So what we did, so when we were back with the VTA, we had a chat just for state leaders, and I forget who organized it. It might have been Nick Orlando. We organized another chat for state leaders and people we knew that were fighters for the industry and the people that really cared. And we had some Zoom calls, and we put it very bluntly, very honestly. This is the state of vaping right now. This is what's really coming. We all knew it was coming, and we've been throwing around ideas. And so I suggested, this works really well in Maryland. We may not have a concrete plan how to get where we're going yet, but what can we do in the interim to impact Congress? And I brought up the idea, and I was like, I didn't know if people would like it or not, but a few people chimed in, yeah, that's a great idea. Then we had the next Zoom call, and then the next thing you know, we're planning the postcard campaign along with the social media PR campaign, and it took off from there. And I have high hopes for it because if we can reach consumers and they know about them taxes, and that's so important, not only let the consumer know about the postcard campaign, but know why we're doing it and show them that, like I printed off and we have it up our front counter right here at the store, what this new tax will do to your bottle of juice and how much it's going to cost. And that if that doesn't get consumers engaged, I mean, at this point, nothing will. And it's just something that we can do right now. Everybody can do. And I mean, I don't know if that's kind of answer you're looking for, but that's how it came to be.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I tried to stress that on my own page. It's just kind of trying to let people understand that take the vaping part out of it. Just look at this nonsense that's going on as far as taxes. Forget about what it's concerning, the vaping or lead liquid. Maybe you're not into that, but nobody wants to be taxed like that. Nobody wants to be taxed, and nobody out there wants to be told that because you're this age, you shouldn't enjoy certain flavors anymore as an adult. I a perfect example. I had a post a couple days ago. I take care of my father. He has dementia, and every morning my dad either has a bowl of cornflakes or Cheerios, the old man cereal, the old man cereal. And the other day I had didn't have any cereal for him. And I had some Fruit Loops that I have over for the kids, for the grandkids when they're over. I'd never seen my dad eat a bowl of Fruit Loops or cereal that fast in my entire life, and the joy and happiness that was in his face. And I'm thinking to myself, this is exactly the same thing. Yeah, he's old, but that doesn't mean he shouldn't enjoy lemon, watermelon, candy fruits and flavors like that. And I want people to realize that that's what's going on. We're being told because parents can't control their kids or not making their kids responsible for their actions and for the things that they're doing wrong, we're being punished and we're being told that we can't enjoy banana, apple pie. We can't enjoy these flavors, chocolate, coffees, but we should just have straight tobacco. And that's what I want people to see. It's more than just vaping. It's our freedoms being told that we can't enjoy these things any longer. Yeah, that's the sad part. I want people to realize that it's not just the vaping industry. It's we're being told that we can't have this, and that's ridiculous.
There's a question from chat.
Where?
From Miss Taylor Cage.
Oh,
Y'all asked Matt how we successfully used the PAVE playbook against them and marched in kids to say how happy they are that their parents quit smoking with vape.
yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit already. And Taylor, she's awesome. And thank you for watching, Taylor, and sharing in our MVA chat. But she's a part of the Maryland Vapor Alliance as well. And what she's referring to is what I already talked about, how we had the panel of kids testify in Maryland.
Yeah.
Because every time we went into testify in committee, PAVE would march a bunch of children and the testimony and have them testify and how vaping is so evil and bad. They would bring in young college students, and they'd all be wearing lab coats like they were doctors or something.
Yeah.
To testify in committee, and it was just the display. It made you cringe.
Yeah.
And so we were like, you know what? We got to defeat this. Let's use a playwright out of their book.
Yep.
Let's bring in our kids. And we're not going to write their testimonies for them. We're going to let them write them themselves. Say what you really feel. My kids know the difference between vaping and smoking and the lies that they're told in school. And they sit there and go, no, that's not right. Yep. And they came and they testified and they said what was on their heart. And the chairman of the committee actually thanked the kids for coming in and said that, it was so well received. And I could see all the PAVE people out there just going.
Yep.
And it was a great day for Maryland.
Yep.
Go
ahead, Tim.
I was going to say, just to kind of tether off of John's conversation, it's not really as cut and dry as us being told that we shouldn't enjoy flavors, but I think it's important to note why flavors are important. And that is that the flavors are help disassociating vapors from the taste of cigarettes, right? So if you have something enjoyable and you're doing something that's safer, that's a connection as well. So it's a big component to why vaping is successful. But then they use that and say, well, because of flavors, that's the attractant for kids. That's what makes our kids basically, become Mission Impossible, ninjas and go get jewels at the convenience store. And we could talk about that more, but I just wanted to make that point, is that flavors are important to disassociating from the taste of cigarettes and even further driving you to be successful.
Yeah. What was I going to say? I lost my train of
Well,
thought.
I can
I'm
kind of
old. Go ahead.
piggyback off of what he was saying is that we know what kids are using, and that's how we actually talk to our state legislators. So we pulled all the reports from the state of Maryland of all the tobacco youth violations, and there's hundreds of them every year. And if you look down the list, it's jewel views. And if they're all been purchased at C stores, at CVS, Walgreens, places like that. And we showed, and there wasn't one vape shop for Maryland on that list.
On that list, yeah.
My vape shop, we have passed every single inspection and straw purchase that has come in. And we showed this to our legislators and be like, these are the people selling to kids. Yeah. These are the products they're buying. And it's not us doing it. We are the good stewards of this industry, and flavors are a part of that. And it was a really strong message, because our lobbyists would walk around with a device like this and a bottle of juice, and he would walk around with the jewel in the other hand and actually, because they don't know, and physically show them the difference. This is what the kids are using, these big bulky things that cost $100+ or what adults are using. Right. And it was a very effective message.
Right.
Yep.
Well, yeah, that's the thing we advocate on this show, is just letting all the vapors out there know that get your family involved, get them involved. We talk about it all the time. These are the people that seen the transition that you've taken. They've seen your skin color change. They've seen the wrinkles go away. They see the smell go away. They see you healthier, walking, not breathing like you just ran a 10-mile marathon. These are the people, and that's great that you guys brought those kids in and had them, they see their dads, they see their uncles, they know that they've made that transition. And it's sad. We talked about it last week, and about just having more women involved in our industry at higher levels. And I think it's important to have that female presence there, not just as a consumer, but somebody that owns a vape shop, that owns a hardware company, but someone at the higher level, or way up there in one of these advocacy groups. We need to have their voice shown, because people listen to women when they speak. It's that motherly thing, whatever you want to call it. But instead of us having, God, I don't even know how to say it, Tim, without offending the whole industry. You say it.
What?
Just the tattooed guy with
no, right.
Hat.
I mean, but that's, I think every industry that, it goes into some kind of a marketing situation has some kind of iconic sort of image, and I think
soccer mom,
right? And in terms of vaping, the common image that most people would associate to vapors, because this is how it was marketed and sold in pictures and stuff, was sort of like the big bearded guys with the flat bill caps and sleeved all the way up to their necks, and there's ultimately in the community, like, we don't have a problem with how anybody looks, as long as you're not smoking and you're vaping. That's what it is. But the stereotypes that exist in America, and trust me, I had to run through the stereotype gauntlet since I was a teenager, wanting to look like a rock and roller with long hair and being assumed that I was a druggie and a high school dropout, which none of those were the truth. And that's just an association. Why someone would go, well, just because somebody looks like that, it's got to be some sort of nefarious, almost illegal thing that they're doing, and it's just not that. So I don't think it's an offensive thing.
Yeah, right.
I think it's just a stereotype that needs to be broken through, because vapors look like your next door neighbor. They're the person that gets in their Audi and drives to work, and that guy was a smoker for 20 years, and now he's finally vaping, and and he doesn't stink like, a pack of Pall Malls every day, and he's feeling better.
Yeah, I'm not saying we don't appreciate, we appreciate everyone that's advocating, no matter what you look like, but we're now trying to get the national attention. We're trying to get the soccer moms. We're trying to get the next door neighbor. We're trying to get the non-smoker to realize why we're fighting this battle, and not to think of us all as a bunch of high school kids, 19, 20 years old. They need to see that there is these grandmas that are going into vape shops buying. I saw one the other day that had a mod like mine. I was just blown away. I was like, "That's almost as heavy as you are." I wanted to tell her because she was a real skinny grandma, and she's pulling this big old vape thing up to her mouth, and I was just like, "You could probably find something a little smaller." I wanted to help her so bad, but she couldn't stop talking about how she loved her device. And I wish I had my cell phone and my camera. I would have recorded her, but I was kind of shocked. I was walking to my car from the supermarket, and this old lady fuddling in her bag, and she pulls out this mod and she just hits it and blows this big cloud before she goes into Rayleigh's. And I was just like, did I just see what I think I just saw?
Yeah, so like a, I wouldn't want to call it an underbelly, but I mean, it's something that a lot of people just don't see much often. And that is, there are a lot of, older vapors that are in their 60s and their 70s who have finally found this amazing product to help them. I mean, these are the people that, you're going to lose in your life if they continue down the path that they are on. And now the potential of them being around still for your grandkids and for you. I mean, nobody wants to lose their mom and dad, and to see them finally find something that, is helping them break this nasty habit that they've had for longer than all of us, is an amazing thing. But they exist and they're out there. And I think if you follow Lindsay Stroud on Twitter, you'll see plenty of those videos of a lot of these older vapors that it's changed their lives. Effectively.
If I can share something real quick.
Go ahead.
So about 2 years ago, I buried my grandfather, and he was a guy I highly respected, loved more, than anything. And I'm a veteran. I was in the military for 10 years. I was sergeant in the Army. And so I was in a suit and tie, and I was with the American Legion, and we gave him a military salute because he was military also. And my mom collected the shells that were fired, which are these, we fire blanks, and she made key-rings out of them. And this is my daily reminder of how much I miss my grandfather and why I do what I do. Because if he had access to vapor products and he didn't have multiple strokes because of smoking cigarettes, he might be still here today. And this is one of the sole reasons I do what I do. And it's just a daily, every time I look at it, it just reminds me of what, not just for my family, but all those grandmas you're talking about, and everybody that has vaping has improved their lives, and why we fight and what we do.
Yeah. Tommy boy, you gonna throw one of those funny questions Matthew's way? You're gonna have to prepare yourself. Prepare yourself.
I do want to say, first of all, Matthew, thank you for your service on behalf of everybody here and in chat. And I have 2 of those shells, one for my brother and one for my father. They're over there somewhere. I should find them. My question is, when you're not advocating, working in your shop, etc., what are your hobbies?
Oh, God.
We went with the snowball question for you, man. He didn't go deep.
I do a lot of things. I have a wife. We've been together 18 years, married 9 years. We have 3 beautiful kids together. I have multiple sclerosis too, so I'm always dealing with that. But got into gardening 2 years ago. I'm an avid gardener now.
Nice.
Not very good at it, but I like it.
Yeah.
I'm a motorcycle enthusiast. I'm working on my bike right now. I've got some issues going on with it, and doing a lot of regular maintenance with it. I'm a gamer. I play Heroes of the Storm and Final Fantasies and Diablo and all that stuff. And a lot of times I do as much stuff with my kids as possible. I mean, my kids are my wife are the world to me. And Halloween's coming up, which is one of our family's favorite holidays. We're throwing a big holiday party, and it's always great to see all the kids come around and see their costumes and what they're doing. So I'm trying my best to be a good dad.
Yeah.
Because my upbringing, and I had some problems growing up, and I was a very naive a-hole of a kid, and I'm just trying to be the best dad that I can, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, gardening has taken off. I don't think I've seen more gardening posts in the last 2 years than I could ever remember on Facebook. It's
It's because
just like,
everybody's getting ready to go off the grid, John.
yeah, it
Everybody's
is.
just
Pretty much.
It's the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
Start growing your cucumbers and your tomatoes, people. Get them going.
Get your goats, get your chickens.
I think
My favorite crop is jalapenos. Got to
There you
plant every year.
everybody. I did it. My dad has always been a gardener, so I tried it. So I know your pain. I thought I would inherit the green thumb from my dad, but everything I grow just fucking dies. So
Yes. Yes, Nick. Guns too. Guns are
guns, baby, guns.
Absolutely.
Should we
American,
just-
Guns, hunting, and all that stuff.
Should we just rebrand ourselves as the Wolverines? I don't know. I'm feeling Red Dawn moment coming on right now.
Brian, yell it, Brian. Go ahead.
Wolverine.
Oh,
Before you yell it, let me take my headphones off.
It's Wolverine.
So Brian's a little checked out. He's watching for bots. He's
watching for the bots.
He's bot hunting right now. Quiet.
Be like, quiet.
I'm bot hunting. Anyway.
They do literally need to get their heads out of their ass because they don't have, I wanted to put this whole thing together today on just some of the oops, we fucked up FDA moments. And as I started digging into it, I was like, I can't do this because it was just, deaths because they approved this pill. There's deaths because they approved this pill. And, and I was just like, that'll be for another show. So I am working on, I was going to do it today, but it got so lengthy. They made so many mistakes. I was just like,
I think the thing that pisses me off, and that I hope that there are some non-vapors watching this, and I mean, we live in a pretty, climatized environment in the world, as it were, anyway, with all of the other things that are going on. But it just, as a non-vapor, watching a bunch of people talk about something that they care about so much because they realize how much it changed their life and the good that it's doing for us. But when you take a moment to look at the federal government or people that are in power in this country, and we're talking about how we're trying to save a freedom that we believe that we have an inherent right to within reason. Don't think for a moment that vapors don't care about sensible regulation or being fair about the industry, and we're willing to follow some guidelines provided they make reasonable sense across the board. We don't want kids vaping. It's not like we're promoting underage and youthful vaping. It's illegal for them to possess anyway. The federal T21 law is already there, and there's going to be breakthrough cases. But the point that I'm trying to make overall is that it should make you really step back and question the motive of the federal government when you consider the fact that they're trying to take away something that maybe you'll never care about or ever engage in, but we are, and that it has made a massive improvement in our lifestyles and our ability to get away from cigarettes. And the federal government is effectively saying, but we want cigarettes to stay. We want that there. You have to ask the question, like, why do they care about that so much when we know for an absolute fact that 500,000 people die from smoking cigarettes annually? 70,000 people die annually from secondhand smoking. And then, we try to educate people, and unfortunately, it's the propaganda that tends to bleed out a little bit more often. But when you just have to ask yourself that main question. It's like, how can the government care about people when they're trying to get rid of effectively the cure in favor of preserving and not really touching too much the one thing that we all know is so bad? Why do they want that to stay so much? Right. And it should make you as an individual question the motives of our government in a lot of different things. When you see something like that, just that element alone, it should blow your mind a little bit.
Well, doesn't it surprise all of you that even when we are discussing vaping with a non-smoker or non-vapor, that question never comes up? It's never, they never say, Well, they should ban smoking. You never hear that. It's always that focus on the vaping. Need to get rid of vaping. Get rid of. It's the same thing that applies with alcohol and teen abuse with alcohol. It's always, well, it's socially accepted. Well, okay, alcohol's, but we've have. I don't even want to look up those numbers. How many kids die every year from drinking and driving?
I
I'm
think it's
sure
around 5,000, 3,500 to 5,000.
nobody gives a shit about that. There's no extra law enforcement to stop kids from buying. I did
Flavors and alcohol.
Yeah, flavors and alcohol. And I think I can't remember if it's the right number, but I think it was that beer consumption in the United States was as high as 23% of all beer sales in the United States are underage purchasers. That's insane. That's why
Well,
23% of all the alcohol sold in the United States is sold to an underage person. That's insane. And nobody says nothing. Nobody stop it. I ran out of that stuff.
I think you know what, and I mean,
It was asked what we were vaping.
yeah, no, the Curtis was asking.
Yeah.
I think one thing that it's different, right? Because when it's not your fight, you probably don't really care nearly as much. So when someone who on the day, daily, comes home and has their, their grapefruit vodka refresher little drink when they walk in the door, they like to go out for drinks with friends and things like that. And that something like alcohol is not under any particular fire or threat. It's like your life is okay. Like, it's like, well, I mean, they're not taking the thing, that realizing that it's dangerous. I mean, you could get drunk and get behind the wheel of a car and kill somebody. You could get addicted to drinking and become an alcoholic and effectively die of cirrhosis of the liver. I mean, there are bad things that can become of those addictions as well. But when it doesn't affect you and you don't have to fight for it, you don't have to save it, then that's their fight, whatever. And so I don't think people put as much emphasis on it.
Yeah.
But I think that's why it gets overlooked a little bit too. People just don't care because it's not their problem.
It's probably 10% are college students. The rest are all high school kids. who was in high school and was able to purchase a keg as a minor? I'm one.
I was not. I
But
DC I could.
Nobody. Granted, it was the '80s, but nobody questioned the 16-year-old with the hand cart taking a keg out to the back of his truck. Nobody in the parking lot said, that just doesn't look right. But God forbid, if you were a kid walking across the and the same thing would apply for a kid. I don't think anybody says anything to kids if they see a 16-year-old vaping. Nobody says nothing. Plus, you can't really tell anymore these days who's 16, who's 17 or 18. But it's just ridiculous how one thing is socially accepted and the other one is just, we got to take this away and that away and that away to save the kids. But we don't give a shit if they're 23% of the alcohol sold in the United States is sold to a minor. Nobody cares about that. It's just ridiculous. Brian, no, it's Tim's turn.
I was gonna ask. I mean, I don't know that. I think we're still a little green and a little fresh, and I certainly don't want you to reveal any of your, secret, ancient Chinese secret business plans. But what have you seen any kind of a kickback from the MDOs that have recently been handed out? Because I think we're kind of just sort of hanging in limbo as to how they decide they want to enforce those particular rejections. So my question is, how are you preparing for that from a vape shop perspective? And have you seen any immediate impact where you're like, oh, I can't reorder, I can't re-up on that because they were on an MDO?
So far, it's been pretty business as usual. I haven't had any issues ordering other than the normal, oh, I need this distributor doesn't have it, I gotta check this distributor, go to the next one. I've been kind of keeping my ear to social media as far as enforcement goes with the FDA. Like, there's certain people that have been issued MDOs or the FDA has actually come inspected their manufacturing facility to see if they were still manufacturing. I haven't heard updates on those, but I'm always keeping my ear out for them. There's always loopholes, and people have talked about synthetic nicotine. They have talked about short fills. Even if, let's say, Halo Fusion gets PMTA approved, you could sell that with a flavor shot separately. You could even do it from two different businesses if you wanted to. I mean, there's all kinds of things that you kind of mentally prepare yourself for, but I think at best they're band-aids.
Yep.
Until some action is taken, because I've read more legislation in my life in the past 4 years I ever thought I would, and actually had to pay attention in detail to what they were saying, so I could go back to my lobbyist and I go, no, read this. This is a ban, and he goes, okay, I'll bring it up to them, the chairman or whatever. But I've seen so many intended purpose clause where they're inserting these in the bills, and it doesn't matter how you're selling it or what you're selling it with or what it's made of. They're basically saying, if this is used to vape, see it.
Right.
They're not going to do it.
Yeah.
And so it's a battle that's going to have to be fought.
Yeah.
And that's, we are in the bottom of the ninth right now. And, I know there's a bunch of great people. A lot of them are in this chat that are formulating those plans now, and they're working their butts off to make sure we can do business in the future. And, I got nothing. I've said a million times, these guys, they know, but I have nothing but respect, and I'm in the fight with them, but we can only make so many plans as a business for contingencies, but, at best they're Band-Aids.
Yeah. Well, that was my question, because I think about it, because I mean, again, I have two guys at work who don't know a whole lot. They're, they don't even know an eighth of the items that I have or possess or can use to vape and stuff like that. They're pretty, straight and narrow, kind of, consumers. And so, I don't try to inundate them with information on the daily, but, you want to prepare them, and, and it's like there may come a day when that local vape shop closes down because they can't stock products. They're not going to be able to stay afloat with only tobacco flavor on the shelf and things of that nature. And so, they need to be prepared and understand how they need to act and react to those things. But I was just curious, because it's like, it could it's going to affect all of us from an online purchasing perspective to I mean, my one local vape shop that was around the corner is gone now. It was gone, I think, prior to PMTA deadline. Yeah. I drove by there the other day, and I'm like, the sign's off the door. So I don't know if COVID ended up taking them down, because people weren't, I mean, we were pretty much open state, but I just was wondering how vape shops are kind of knuckling down and getting ready for potentially not even being able to get products to put on their shelves.
Right. And Bob, you'll be able to get your blueberry tie stick. Don't worry.
Yeah, that's totally okay.
That's totally okay.
Marijuana is completely different.
Yeah. He's in California. You're good.
Never mind those attractive gummies that kids just can't stand. I walk up to ask little kids all the time. I'm like, do you like guys like gummy bears? And they're like, no, can't stand them. I hate gummy bears. But I love that e-liquid though. Yeah. That e-liquid is just bomb.
Where it was going. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Also, something else for non-vapors that are watching this show, none of us own a company. None of us are affiliated with a company. Well, Matthew, you own that shop or you work there?
It's owned by me and my business partner.
Right. So it's the only difference. Yeah. Just so everybody knows that we don't represent ZampleBox. We are on the ZampleBox YouTube channel. None of us work for ZampleBox. We are all consumers, so we're allowed to say certain things. I know, Matthew, you're limited to exactly what you can say. Are you able to step out of that box at all when you always have to let whatever legislator you're speaking to understand that you're not a consumer, but you're also you're a vested owner within the industry. So
yeah, we've brought, when we talk to legislators, we really try to get all of our stuff and talking points discussed with our lobbyists with his help before we talk to legislators. And we always let them know that, we are not big tobacco. We are not
Right.
Juul.
Right.
We are small businesses. We have families in Maryland. We live and pay taxes in Maryland, and we vote in Maryland.
Yeah.
And we try to get them statistics saying this is many businesses in Maryland, this is many employees that this bill would kill for people that, are entrepreneurs that embody the American spirit, the American dream. And these are the people that you're trying to stick it to right now.
Yeah.
And, we got to say it eloquently. If I said actually what was on my mind, we would have been dead already.
Yeah.
But you try to be respectful when you talk to them, and you try to get your point across. I mean,
it's got to be hard for you, though.
Yeah.
It's hard for you as an owner, but also as a consumer that uses this product and knows how well it works, and you're limited to what you are you also limited to what you can say to a legislator, or does that change because you're kind of trying to get a point across? Can you say this is good for you? Basically, you can't as a shop, right?
Yeah, as a shop, I cannot.
Right.
As a trade organization, I can, because when I speak to legislators, I'm speaking as a 501c6 trade organization. And so I can say those things, and I bring them science. And when we first started the Maryland Vapor Alliance, the biggest thing that blew me away was that the chair of this committee was sponsored this bill. That was a licensing bill. And it was, as far as he knew, it was a simple licensing bill. You pay your fee, you get your license, whatever, go on life. And I go, no, you need to read this bill because it will put us out of business. And the sponsor of the bill hadn't even read the bill, not even opened a page of it. And he goes, oh, let me get this thing out and look at it. He's like, tell me where this is. So I'm like, what? You're the sponsor? You haven't read this?
Yep.
Yeah.
And that happens every single day. And their excuse, there's the same excuse all the time. Do you know how much paperwork I see every day? Well, that's your fucking job. You need to read that. You don't just get handed something and hey, this needs to pass. Well, what is it? Do I need to read this? Do I need to look into it? Well, what's going to happen? Am I going to hurt people? Is people going to lose their jobs? Just to go in not knowing what you have in your hand and pushing to get this passed is ridiculous. That's just bad politics. Oh, we lost the audio feed to Matt. Or you were muted.
No, I was just saying I agree. It's bad politics. We pay these people to be there to represent us.
Yep.
And if they're not even reading the bills they're sponsored, I don't even know what's in it. It's and I don't care if it's just about vaping. It could be about anything. It affects all Americans. That it's negatively affecting all Americans because they're not doing their job.
Yeah, and that's right, Nick. You're right. They hand them a bill and a check. That's what they got. They get a bill and a check. That's being real. No, you are being real because that's who's running this country right now as lobbyists, and we don't have a lot of money to purchase some high-end lobbyists, but we're doing it ourselves on the ground floor. Yeah, I was always curious how that works with an owner and an advocate for the industry and a consumer, for you knowing what you have and how it works well for you, but I didn't know if your hands were tied when you were actually talking to a legislator.
They're not totally tied, but usually the time that we get with a legislator is very limited. There's a big thing in Ocean City, Maryland every year called the Maryland Association of Counties that 3, 4, 5 of us go to, and all the politicians have their fundraising events, and we go there to booze, schmooze, all that stuff. And if you get 1, maybe 2 minutes with a legislator, that's it. That's all you're getting. And you got to have a clear, direct message with them. The only time we get more time with the legislators when our lobbyist sets up to actually go to their office and have a sit-down conversation with them. And there we have a little bit more time where we can work in our message and then work in some anecdotal information about how this has helped me. My grandfather died from smoking, those type of things. So there's a time and place for everything. You just got to really judge when's the appropriate time to bring those things up.
Yeah, and COVID hasn't made that any easier for you guys now. Yeah. I mean, some of these bills are being passed, and there's so-called Zoom rooms that, half the people may not even know how to use a computer or how to get on Zoom. but they would have been there. They would have stood in front of that panel and they would have shared their stories and their information. But because of COVID, they can't do it.
Yeah, and they get sneaky too. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, this is not a bad parallel, but I think it is a decent parallel. We have a thing going on here in my county where they want to construct some massive structure not far from this neighborhood that would, create some. It would upset the area quite significantly. So, we found out about a hearing or, basically a vote that they were going to have on moving forward with this project. And it was not like community people didn't receive a letter. We had no standard channel to be notified that this meeting was going to take place. And if we wanted to utilize our open, public commentary period, that this was the time to do it. Like they basically wrote it on a sign, and then they buried the sign down a little driveway, like halfway in a tree line, so you could barely see it. So, it wasn't for the neighbors noticing it and then pushing it out onto social media. None of us would have even known to have shown up, or that we had an opportunity to speak up about it. And I think that they kind of do that with a lot of these vape bills and things that they try to get through is they don't make it clearly obvious that it's going to go down and that's your chance to go talk or say something or get in the Zoom room and voice your opinion. You just don't even know that they happened. And so because there's very little opposition, it makes it really easy for them to go ahead and pass it.
Yeah, they do the bare minimum. It's true. They're sneaky about it. They're real sneaky about it. And that's one of the things that we stress too. On this show is just every one of you guys, whatever city you live in, I guarantee you there's a Facebook page. They have a Facebook page and they post that stuff. So if you're kind of concerned, maybe a small, whether it's vaping or some other issue that you're concerned with, you could always use that Facebook group page for the city, and all that stuff is right there for you. They'll let you know what's going through, how to get involved, and all that stuff. So pay attention to that. Brian.
Yep.
Where'd
Back
you
around
go?
to
Yes.
you.
So
did you wash your hands?
yes.
Okay. Good.
So here's a question. Actually, I always have multiple questions. One of my main questions for anybody who's either in the fight, all that stuff, likes to go through everything. When you see stuff that goes through either legislation or the FDA, and you think that there's a better way of doing it, but it just doesn't happen, how can the public try to help instill the feeling of trying to get that put through to other people's heads, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I kind of know what you're saying. It's kind of like when someone sees something come out and they either think it's an injustice or they're like, why did they do it this way? Couldn't it have been done, some different way? And I'll go back to so we have a great lobbyist in Maryland. He has learned so much about our industry, and he's taken the time to understand what vaping is. He knows other legislators in Maryland that actually quit smoking with vaping, and we've built relationships with them. And he goes back, when we see stuff like that, he goes back to it all the time. You need to develop a relationship with your legislators or your congressperson. You need to call them. You need to write a letter to them. You need to email them, because if they don't hear from you, they're just going to assume it's all good.
Yep.
And that's the way our country is supposed to run. They're supposed to represent our views. So, we're going to be doing a push here in Maryland where business owners of vape shops, we're going to reach out to our legislators and invite them to our vape shop. Show them what we do. Show them our passing letters from our straw purchase people. And you got to communicate. And any citizen in the United States can do this. You can go look up who your state legislators are. You can look up who your congressional reps are, and you can get a hold of them. And you can go visit them at their office. Now, a lot of times you'll get their aid,
Yeah.
And the aide is going to have a notebook, and they're going to write who you are, where you came from, what you came to talk about, and he will pass that on to the congressperson. And that's a minimal like civic duty that you can do if you don't agree with something, or if you see a law that comes out, you're like, that doesn't make sense to me. I need to find out why they did it that way. And it's, as you're right, as an American, to challenge why they did what they did. And I mean, I hope I answered the question kind of like what you're going down, but they need to hear from us is the bottom line.
Yeah.
And not just now and then. I mean, it doesn't take long to send an email. It doesn't take long to make a phone call. It really doesn't. I've done it, I don't know how many times now in this industry. So,
it does to me answer a question. Answer that question. To me, like I don't know. I've always felt that if everyone gave a phone call, if everyone gave a letter, if everyone, just did that one little thing real quick, or besides filling out a quick little like sign this quick thing, I think that'd be a little bit more pushy on the congressional people. Like I've called mine. Like when I took my trip to DC, I actually called my reps to see if they were actually going to be down there at the time, and they actually weren't at that time. But that was my whole thing, is just try to meet up with them and chit chat with them.
that's awesome that you did that. I mean, you went above and beyond what most average people would do. I mean, if you think about the impact a group of people can have. Now, I can't remember. I'm sure Nick Orlando remembers. There was something in the vaping world that came up, and it was a year or two ago, and we were put calls to action out to call the White House. And I think it was because of what President Trump said about vaping, if I'm right.
Right.
But the White House, they have multiple lines coming in, and we shut down all of them. Like, you could not make a phone call into the White House, and this was just vapors calling in. I mean, imagine if the regular person on their personal issues were to organize something like that and do that, and what the effect it would have, because you got a bunch of people actually participating in their government.
Right. Did anybody see the little thing that happened today with Pave?
Which
it was all over Twitter. Well, I was at work when it all kind of went down. Yeah, no, Pave basically launched a Call the White House campaign, essentially kind of lobbying and trying to, and have a bunch of parents call the White House and, yammer on about how, the FDA should have, shut them down and all this other stuff. So all the vapor people were out there going, here's what Pave's going to do. We need to one up them, and we need to try to flood the lines again to try to drown out all these, Karens who are, following Pave and calling into the White House. So that happened today. So those are things, to keep an eye out for too, as you try to counter the little side wars that they got going on. Pave's kind of running out of stuff to do at this point.
Yeah, they are.
But they're an active group, and you got to give them that. Even though I don't agree with anything they do, they are an active group, and they do what's necessary to get the job done. Right. And that's exactly what we have to do.
Yeah, exactly. They're, as you can see, you say, they're well organized. That's for sure, and that's the difference. I think for us in the beginning was we had so many groups involved, and a lot of advocacy groups weren't speaking to each other. They, it's the same thing with any other business. You have your ideas; these guys have these. This is going to benefit shops. This is going to benefit the websites, and we went through that battle. But I think now everyone needs to put all that stuff aside and figure out how to save this industry and stop worrying about what's going to hurt you and what's going to hurt them. We need to worry about us, for the consumer, for once. And I think we need to put all those differences aside, because it's getting ugly. I mean, that's the timeline that what we went through. You can see there's not many other industries I can think of offhand that have gone through the nonsense that we have gone through, and not been able and put in the situation that we're in, where we're not allowed to go out and talk about how amazing this product is, and guys can't come in the shops and ask questions anymore like we used to in the beginning. You we can't even put it. You guys can't even put a frigging coil in a device for somebody anymore. That's ridiculous. No other industry has gone through what this industry is going through, and people. It has nothing to do with health. It doesn't. They don't give one rat's ass about if this is a healthy alternative for you. It's their way of trying to find a way to get money out of it, and that's what it's always been about. It's always been about the money, and I want people to realize that it goes all the way back to 1998 MSA, and keeping that engine rolling and keeping that money going in. And we all know we did a whole show on just MSA and how the money breaks down and where this money is not going to.
Right.
We had remember how many states did we have that used $0 for harm
There's
reduction?
at least two.
Yeah,
At least two.
$0. They didn't use a single dime that the CDC recommended that they put aside for harm reduction. They didn't use a dime of it.
Right.
And from what I understand how it works, they technically don't have to tell you where that money's going. That's crazy.
They actually don't. They actually put it in this big pool of we're going to do this with this money type field. They actually don't have to tell you where it's being spent at.
Right. I had one day, I was watching the news and I saw Governor Newsom get on TV right after I saw the letter that said the state of California got $9 billion in MSA money. And then him coming on TV and telling the state of California that they were $7 billion in debt. And I was like, wait a minute here. We got $9 billion from tobacco, but yet we're still $7 billion in debt. Who's doing the math over there? That's all I want to know. It doesn't make any sense, but that's the kind of money not all states are getting $9 billion, guys. I mean, this is the state of California got $7 to $9 billion. I forget what New York was one of the other states that got a pretty hefty check from MSA in 2020. I forget what it was, but we're talking about billions of dollars here that no one is letting anyone else know where this money is going. None of it's going to harm reduction. If it is, it's very little. And I don't know. Does anybody know the math that the CDC uses to decide on how much of that money needs to go towards harm reduction?
Not entirely.
Is it?
No.
I at first I thought it was population driven. Maybe like, okay, you have 100 million people in this. You need to dedicate this much money to smoke harm reduction. I don't know. Maybe Nick, do you?
I think they probably use some sort of relative mathematics where they look at the total number of people who smoke in that particular state, how many smokers they have, and then they fraction it out. And because not every state is required to commit the same amount of money.
Right.
Obviously, population in a state would play a factor into that as well.
Yeah, population, how many smokers in that state? Yeah.
So I'm glad you brought up an important point, and I just got permission from Nick Orlando to talk about it.
All right, Nick. Thank you, Nick.
Now we know who Daddy is in the chat.
we're all like, I love this group that I'm in because we're all on the same page, right?
Yeah.
And we all care deeply about this industry. And you talked about unification and setting aside their egos, agendas, and coming together to fight for the industry. And that's what our group is about. So we have a bunch of state leaders in our group who are all talking. And we are utilizing some key people in that group to bring national organizations together. So we're talking like the VTA, SFATA, AVA, the UVM, a bunch of people in the industry, and we're trying to get them together and saying, listen, this is the bottom of the ninth. I know you guys got stuff going on. We're not trying to take that away from you.
Right.
But let's put our heads together, see what we can come up with, and then unite as one and move in a direction that's going to benefit the industry. And I think there's going to be some exciting things that come out of that, and to give vapors some hope. And it's contingent upon a few things. It really is. It's very contingent upon a few things. But I love what this group is trying to do. I love what they represent, and I know the people that are in this group. They're not just people that are here going, "Yay, I support the industry." These people work their butts off for this industry, every single one of them. And I mean, I have faith in them. I mean, I think there's great things to come that all of us can unite behind and get behind and push for. And it's a plan coming to fruition that still has some steps to go, but I am excited about it, to say the least.
That's really good, because that's one of the, we talk about that. It just seems like we need to get together and be one for once and just put all the differences aside. I understand financially it's different for the vape shop, and yes, it's different for an online vendor. It's all different, but when it comes right down to it, if you don't have a product to sell, you don't have a shop, you don't have an online business. So it's time that you guys unite and work on one common goal, and that's just saving this industry for the reason that you got in it in the first place, and that was to save lives, and it needs to get back to saving lives and not dollars. Canada's a whole. I know that Canadians are worried, and it makes sense, because what we do, they're eventually going to do themselves, and it's scary. I know that you have a lot of Canadians out there, and I have a lot of Canadian friends that are worried, because they're just waiting to see what we're going to do, because they know eventually their government will do the same thing. And
look at Australia.
Yeah,
they're getting ready to become prescription.
Yep, that I don't want. I don't want to go see. I don't want to see the doctor right now as it is, and I should be seeing him once a year, but I'm not going to make a $75 doctor's appointment so I can get a nicotine prescription so I can go get my e-liquid. That's not happening. I'm sorry. I'll move to Italy. I'm saying it right now on the show. I have dual citizenship. I will go to Italy and live the rest of my life there. So, yeah, no, I feel sorry for, and there's a couple other places. I mean, who else is I wouldn't say England. I wouldn't say Europe is waiting to see what we do, because I think they have their system in place and they like what they're doing there.
Well, they fully endorse it. I mean, they have some, little loopholes that they have to, well, I won't call them loopholes, but I'm saying they have little hoops they got to jump through to get what they want to get. But they've effectively gotten an endorsement from, the government, to use vaping to get away from. I mean, for shit's sake, they have vape shops in hospitals in the United Kingdom. But there's other countries where it was just completely snatched away, like India. They just, the Philippines, they just, you get shot. You can get shot, for breaking the law over there. So, I mean, it's insanity at its best.
Hey, Tim, I don't know if you heard this story, Matt, but Tim had an article a few weeks ago talking about the shops actually putting vape counselors.
Yeah, so
Tim, go ahead, talk about that.
Yeah, I'd like to hear about that.
Yeah, so there's a local company that's like a series of vape shops, and due to COVID and primarily COVID, a lot of the channels for people to kind of go down the path of getting assistance in transitioning to vaping, their counselors were lost, and their localized services were lost. So these vape shops are actually, you'll have to forgive me, I don't remember all the terminology, but they in this particular company, I believe they have 5 vape shops now, and they're still expanding. In each vape shop, they were opening up a service within that vape shop that was called effectively a vape clinic. And it was a dedicated service, and it was a separate area of the store that had an advanced, educated vapor, somebody who had been vaping for a number of years and kind of understood, the proper path to take to, help transition. So basically you would call up or email or contact through the website, and you would book a 30-minute appointment, and you show up for that 30-minute appointment, and you are one-on-one with that person behind the counter, glass, whatever, and they would ask all the pertinent questions like, how much do you smoke? What do you smoke? Like, and understand your lifestyle and things that help them provide to you basically the appropriate product to help you to start the quit journey. And so you would get specialized service, and then at the end of that, I believe you walked out with a free bottle of liquid. I think they gave you at least a one, whatever, I don't know what the size was, and a device that that was agreed upon was the best one to start with. And you effectively got kind of a 30-day return policy. Like, they would take the e-liquid back, provided it was still unopened or untampered with. But they would also let you bring back that device if that device didn't work for you, and then you would work again with that person to find something that did kind of help you transition more effectively. But yeah, so the vape shops were taking advantage of a shortage in counseling and other health.
And where was this at?
This is in England.
England. Okay.
Yeah, I have it in my vaping vault, Matthew. I'll send you the link, and you can take a look at it. But
it's crazy that hearing you tell this to me, because we've done that thousands of times in our vape shop, but I've never heard of that. I mean, I think it's great.
Yeah.
But I just never heard of it.
I think it's a brilliant idea. It's a brilliant idea. You get, you get away from the customer, you get away from the store. You're actually sitting down. You get 30 minutes with that guy. He's gonna get to know everything about you, what kind of job you have. All that stuff matters when you're trying to quit. So I thought it was pretty cool. Did you want to talk about anything? What did I put in? I just put in the Facebook group page for the Maryland Vapor Alliance. Got anything going on there that you want to talk about, or the Iowa? Which one did you want to talk about real quick here?
For Maryland, I mean, session starts second Wednesday in January. We're gearing up for that, talking to legislators, inviting them to our shops, planning accordingly. I mean, if anything, I want to issue a challenge to anybody that is watching this and is involved in the vape industry is to hop on board with the postcard campaign, the Iowa PR campaign. Look up your state association, see what they're doing, or if you're any kind of advocate in the industry, do what I'm doing right now. If you have relationships with influencers, vape radio shows, talk shows, whatever, get on those shows and do exactly what I'm doing.
Advocate.
I mean, I'm nobody special. I'm just a guy that, doing what I do with the business and trying to save this industry in the capacity that I can. And I just ask anybody else that cares to do the same and spread the word and get more people to participate, get customers involved. I mean, it's nothing special, but if we can engage more people, then that's the whole point.
And I put the link for the postcard up again on Facebook. Hopefully it's working. It's a long link, boy. that link. So I don't know if it's actually going through, guys, or not. If not, I will figure out how to get it to work, because I don't think it went through. It went through. So
okay,
it's on there. It just took a few seconds, but you guys can go there, download that card, and I think it's 4x6, so it's a 4x6. It's a postcard. It's like, oh man, yeah. So I'll have that. I have your links for the Iowa one and the Maryland Vapor Alliance Facebook group page, and you guys can find them on Twitter as well. You can find Matthew on Twitter as well. Let's blow up Matthew's Twitter. He wants to blow up.
He needs some followers.
I'm a Twitter noob. I will tell you, I'm trying my best, but
reverse camera. This guy's our Twitter guy.
I'm the loudmouth out there.
I can build computers. Yeah. Twitter, we're getting there.
Yeah, Tim has a way with 140 characters. He has a way with it.
A lot of deleting and abbreviating. It's tough for me, but I
Oh. We are going to jump into news and advocacy with Tim real quick here. Timmy, are you ready, Timmy?
never been more ready, Mr.
Never
Funkowski.
been. Yeah, Snoop Dogg thinks so.
Lay back.
Yeah, with my mind on my money. And
in a van down by the river. No, we're tapping, kids. We're tapping because we got some news and advocacy to get to. We always have news and advocacy to get to, and I thought that I would try to take a different angle this week in terms of delivering the news. It's come up, I think, the last couple weeks in a row where everybody's like, do you have anything good to talk about, Tim? Do you have anything good to talk about? And while the world does feel like a massive steaming pile of doom and gloom the majority of the time, I was able to actually pull up some positive stuff. Ironically, in all of this mess, there was a couple articles that I thought were worthy of talking about in terms of good news stuff. One specifically that addressed vaping overall, if people are familiar with Stanton Glantz, he's been a huge proponent of the vape industry, tobacco in general, but he really decided to go on a crusade regarding vaping. But let's talk about this article first, and then we can talk about Mr. Stanton Glantz. He's actually retired now, but if you want to pummel him on Twitter, be my guest. He's out there, and he does have a couple followers. I've made a comment the other day on Twitter. Some guy named Tariq Tahir or something like that. He's one of Glantz's, I think, kind of basically bedfellows in a lot of ways. And everybody was kind of razzing this Tahik guy because he was kind of endorsing some of the nonsense that Glantz, was kind of still kind of propagating out there. And everybody was just kind of like harping on this guy, like, basically, if Stanton, said X, you'd say X. Agreed, and I was like, look, I said to the guy, don't you stutter step when Stanton tells you to eat the pudding and wait for your interstellar rapture. I don't want to see you balk, I said, come to the dark side. We have cookies. That's what I said.
Cookies, baby.
Yeah, we got cookies. So, all right, let me share. Let me share my screen. I'm getting off on a tangent. Anyway, I like Twitter some days because, like, some days as a vapor and you're on Twitter and you see the shit that you see. If you're on Twitter now, there's a campaign going on. I'll talk about it real quick. It's called Depression Stick, and it is a paid for anti-campaign that was funded through Truth Initiative. I believe it's Truth Initiative. And it's basically they're kind of like mocking the whole vape shop kind of thing and vape products. And they've got basically like a jewel pod kind of in a package. It's all brightly colored and looks attractive. And they're, like passing it out like, hey, get your hands on this depression stick because, it'll basically, give you more anxiety and create depression and all this other stuff. So there's a massive movement on Twitter right now to take this campaign down as being kind of promoting depression and feelings of anxiety and trying to use vaping as sort of the necessary evil to get people to see why they have depression and anxiety, and it's solely because of vape products. But let's talk about this one. I did share. There we are. All right, let me make it a little bit bigger. All
That's
right,
what she said.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is something that we can kind of rejoice in a little bit because there's so much negative press put out there in the standard channels, social media channels about how it was even talked about with COVID, about how people who vape had a higher risk possibility of contracting COVID because of the compromising their lungs and making them more susceptible when they found that there was no inherent link and there was no association to vapors and or smokers being more susceptible to contracting COVID. In fact, the numbers were lower for people who vaped and stuff like that. So I'm not saying that we should revel in that particular news. We don't want anyone to get COVID at all, period. But it was disproven, like many of the propaganda articles that are out there. This one, it was a study, a restudy actually of an initial study that basically came to the conclusion that there is absolutely no proof that vaping increases the risk of heart attacks. And these are articles that you can share with people. There are cited references, and you can even name names and all that other stuff and send people off to the other documentation that exists. But I mean, this is the headliner article. But basically, Kuala Lumpur. But the study was done in the United States, so don't get the wrong idea that this was done in some foreign country. It's not. This is actually a recent study from the United States. So a recent study from the United States showed that there is no evidence that the use of e-cigarettes or vaping is linked to heart attacks among those who've never smoked traditional cigarettes. So there is a contingency of people out there who pick up vaping for whatever. They have their multitude of reasons. I'm not going to question anybody that picks up any particular habit for whatever reason they choose to. But people who typically, the people that are vaping are people that used to smoke, but is a small contingency of people who vape that never smoked cigarettes before. Maybe they're coming off of smokeless tobacco or something else, right? But this was published in the American Journal of Preventive Medicine. The article itself highlights issues in earlier studies that contributed to fears of links between vaping and heart attacks. And Stanton Glantz was also one who was involved in this. Actually, he published a paper, or a study anyway, that he tried to make the claim that people who vaped were more susceptible to heart attacks, which he later had to retract that article. So a lot of people call him a liar and say, he basically puts out fake information. A lot of times what you'll find with Stanton is he quotes his own work. He cites himself as the source of where he gets all this hardcore information from. That's kind of, I don't know, there's that a conflict of interest,
just a
basically
little.
Here's evidence that shows this, but I made the evidence. So, you obviously it's far more reliable that way. The authors of the study/article or the publication were Clayton R. Critcher from the University of California and Michael Siegel from Boston University. And they noted that previous researchers confused their own models' assumptions that these risks were independent with the idea that their analysis validated the presence of independent risks. The study is actually called Re-examining the Association Between E-Cigarette Use and, ready for this one? Everyone say it with me. Is it Mayo or Mido? I think I've typed it out, and I just want to make sure I'm saying it right. Myocardial infarction, not infraction, infarction.
You're right.
Yeah, okay,
you said
good.
that correctly.
Which is basically just a fancier word for heart attack. But you got to say it, just because that it almost was challenging to say.
You're a doctor now.
Licensed, yes. The study analyzed national health interview survey data between the years of 2014 and 2019. The study found that the association between e-cigarettes and a lifetime history of heart attacks depends on a person's history of smoking traditional cigarettes. Obviously, if you've been smoking cigarettes for a much longer period of time, and even though you've transitioned to vaping, you still have a very high possibility that you could have a heart attack due to the damage that you did to your body and your heart by smoking cigarettes. So that doesn't mean because you vape that you're more susceptible to those heart attacks. It's relative, right? So if you smoked for 5 years and then you started vaping, your percentage or chance of getting a heart attack if you're now currently a vapor are much lower than the guy who smoked for 35, 40 years and he's only been vaping for a year or two. It's important to note that a lot of people that transition from smoking to vaping also are dual users for a good period of time. So, they haven't quite been able to kick the cigarette, or that association is not gone yet. So a lot of people, or they go out to the bar and they start drinking, and they're like, cigarette would, go really well with that beer right now. The vape just doesn't, the vape isn't a good pairing or whatever. You find that stuff out later. Those without a history of smoking, the subsequent use of e-cigarettes, past or present, was not associated with myocardial infarction incidents. Daily e-cigarette use was associated with higher myocardial infarction incidents only among everyday and former combustible cigarette users. So, addicts, cigarette people who smoked, like I was a pack a day, easy. And then you add drink into the equation, and that number went up. Go to Los Angeles and walk down Hollywood Boulevard. You got to buy like 2 extra packs for all the homeless dudes that walk up to you and ask you for a cigarette.
Hey, dude, you got a cigarette?
Hey, man, you got an extra one of those? Back then, you could probably afford to cough them up because they weren't that expensive. That was like 88, 89. I went there.
80 cents a pack.
Yeah, exactly. Nowadays, no, $1, dude. $1 a stick. Anyhow, this same study also mentions the retraction of a 2019 article published in the Journal of American Heart Association that claimed e-cigarette users were more prone to heart attacks. And that's your boy, Stanton Glantz, right there. So he catches a lot of flack for that, because anytime he cites himself and he puts this information out on Twitter, everybody loves to just rehash the whole idea that he did have a study retracted. So how could you believe this guy if he's going to publish all this nonsense? But overall, these are the types of articles. They don't really have the gotcha headline. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry. I mean, the article substantiates exactly what the headline reads, and that a study was done. You can pass these articles on to people. I believe you can actually, even if you Google, a lot of times they give you a link. However, people can go read the study for themselves.
Hey Tim, how about sharing that link in the chat?
The actual article itself? Sure, I can do that.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, let me put it in the comments.
Now they have no excuse, Tim.
I have to open up. Here, I'm going to put it in private chat.
Yeah, I'll do it
paste
for you.
it over.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Because otherwise I'd have to go open up YouTube, and I don't really feel like multitasking right now. So there's that. So, I mean, if anybody wants to start chanting at you and saying, oh, you're going to have a heart attack if you vape, you can say, no, there's the link has effectively been disproven, and that my percentage is much lower than those who continue to smoke. So, because you'll even have smokers trying to tell you that what you're doing is worse than what they're doing. Yeah. I've had that happen. It's true.
You can add at the end of the sentence, Tim told me so.
That's true. Actually, I wanted to create a business card one time that basically, in those moments. So the business card was pretty simple. One side of the business card was kind of like a flesh-colored pink, and it said "my lungs," and then on the back it was black, and it said "your lungs." And I was any smoker that came up to me and wanted to harp on me for vaping, trying to make the claim that what I was doing was worse than what they were doing, I was just going to hand them. one of those business cards. Yeah. So I don't know.
You should
maybe
throw
I'll
that idea to the Pink Lady Brigade over there in Washington. That would work really well.
I don't know if smokers still attack vapors much out in public. I do know that it sometimes can be common at work or whatever. You're out in the smoking area and you're the one vapor amongst 10 smokers, and there's always that one person who reads Facebook articles way too much, and they start harping on you. But that's when you educate those people.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyhow, all right. So happy news story number 2. Well, I had my takeaway on the first one was I said it'll take more studies and medical journal entries like this to persuade the medical community, and like your doctor who might believe otherwise, and public at large that vaping is safer than smoking. Unfortunately, this is not what ends up in the media or the news or even congressional hearings. You don't hear much about these things. Nope. It's all the doom and gloom stuff, Anyhow, so the next article is one that I thought maybe, just maybe, through CASA, that people who actually watch the show, who were looking for a way to get their voice heard, or at least get themselves on the record, right? So to speak. So there's this massive campaign going on right now. There was a website started. It's called righttovape.org. I'll share this, John, with you guys too as well. But it's basically a joint venture between CASA and then another acronymed organization called CAFRA, which stands for Coalition of Asia Pacific Tobacco Harm Reduction Advocates. The goal in general is to create the world's largest collection of successful vape stories.
Nice.
And the site is now currently, as of the entry of this article, which was a little old, August 11th, 2021, they were currently up to 14,000 testimonials at the pressing of that particular article.
I'm going to do mine.
Right. So it's basically they're building an international database of people who have transitioned to vaping and are taking the quit journey and sharing their testimonial, sharing their story about how it's been a positive influence on their lives and how it's made a dramatic positive impact with regard to the quality of their life. I wanted to read this real quick. This is from Nancy Lucas, the executive coordinator of CAFRA. This site will not only be a uniquely dedicated resource, but a powerful response to those who want to restrict access to vaping and other smoke-free products. The many inspiring life stories and compelling anecdotes clearly demonstrate that, in fact, consumers are the evidence. And this is the stuff that greatly gets ignored by the government and when they're legislating and stuff like that. They just don't. These are the stories that they need to hear. They say, well, we don't have enough proof that it helps people quit smoking. Well, you got people lined up that are ready to tell you their story. Here's your proof right here. The purpose of the site is to collect and publicly post successful vape stories and testimonials from people who've made the switch from combustible and harmful smokeless tobacco products to safer, smoke-free alternatives. So that's the basic premise of the site. They're calling on all adult vapors. So here's our chance. If you want to share your story, here's a channel for you to do that. I believe that you can, I don't know all of the different mediums and how you can submit. I would imagine that the most obvious one will be some kind of a textual, you'll be able to submit a written statement about your testimonial. But they're calling on all adults from around the world to share your testimonial. And then I wanted to read Alex Clark. By the way, Matthew, we've had Alex on the show very early on in our series of shows. I don't know what episode it was. You can go back and find it. We did have Alex and the CASA people on the show. So that was a great show as well. We try to get as many influencers in that space on the show as we can. So Alex's comment was, all too often the debate around safer nicotine products is framed as a conflict between corporate profits versus public health. This international collection of consumer testimonials challenges that false and antiquated narrative. It's full of genuinely lived experiences of people who are improving their lives by switching away from combustion. So I wanted to read that. That was his basic take on what this whole project is about, trying to dispel some myths as well. Participants are free to write their own story, and they're encouraged to share all facets of their quit journey. So in that story, you can include things like how long you were a smoker, what quit methods did you try outside of vaping. A lot of people tried all the other stuff, and that didn't work, and then vaping did. And you hear it all the time in the testimonials. How long they've been successfully switched, and what quality of life changes you've experienced due to that switch. So I hear stories all the time where, like, somebody could barely, like, run down the street, and now they're mountain biking, and doing all kinds of extraordinary things that they weren't able to do. People who had chronic COPD, and they're able to get away from their COPD medications and things of that nature. They were able to cure much of their own ailments just by simply transitioning to that. Miss Lucas, the previous executive, believes that the international database of testimonials will be a wake-up call to the world's politicians, public health officials, and anti-vape campaigners. She did make a secondary statement, which I believe, where Where was her? She had another statement. Oh, here. We are adults. We have the right to make informed decisions for our health. We are the evidence that safer alternatives work, and we are not going to be silenced. This is an incredibly powerful new global advocacy initiative, and CAFRA is delighted to be working with CASA to launch it to the world. Now, give us your personal stories. So I encourage everybody in the chat, anybody who you know is an avid vapor, anybody who's vaping and has had a positive experience through vaping, share this information with them and get them to go share their story, have them get their story on record, So it's nice to sometimes tell people what it's done for you. And here's a great way of doing that. Those who've made the switch are also encouraged to sign the Right to Switch petition. So I wanted to talk about this because there's a tether to all of this. So on change.org, there was a petition started. Now, I know that there's some general feelings about petitions and do they work or do they not work. They only really work until you get people behind them and signing them and doing it en masse, right? You can't have a petition and expect to persuade anybody if you're only going to get a couple thousand signatures. So on the change.org, Right to Switch was created. There's a petition right here. And basically, it gives you the breakdown and what it's all about. This is effectively a campaign, a side campaign to try to influence the World Health Organization. And what a lot of people may not know is there is a division of the World Health Organization called the FCTC, which basically stands for the Framework Convention for Tobacco Control. This is the head of the dragon. This is literally the head of the dragon. This is where the guidance on vaping and tobacco usage and nicotine and all of that really kind of feeds itself down from. It tends to be that the CDC and the FDA and all these other medical organizations tend to follow the guidance of the World Health Organization, and based on whatever governance or guidance that they provide is typically where most people kind of lean to. So this is basically a petition to try to influence the World Health Organization. So the petition urges the WHO to respect consumer rights and stop demonizing THR ahead of the next FCTC meeting in November. So you can quickly go over to change.org. It was a really long-winded link. I can provide it for you, John. Yep. So first, let me go back and do the successful vape stories.
Got that one already.
Okay, good. And then the change.org one is a little bit different. But basically, you can add why you're signing, why you feel this is a decent, an absolute cause that you want to get involved in. And then basically, you're right there. It kind of already knew my name. I don't know how it knew my name. It's the internet these days.
It's in there, baby.
I'm sure when I go back to Facebook, I'll somehow
you're in the system.
There'll be some lawn gnomes that I need to buy from Amazon or something after all this is said and done. But that said, so sign the petition. Right now they have about 9,200 signatures. Now we're gunning for 10K. Be nice to even get that number up even higher. Share this link around with your friends. Get people to sign the petition. You never know. I just say you never know. Right?
You never know, baby.
Don't not do it because you think it's a waste of your time. What if it did work? And because you didn't, you never know, right?
That's right.
So I wanted to share that. I think, Matthew, I sent you that VPZ article. I hope that you got that. It's on Facebook. I don't know how much of Facebook you use, but I put it in your message.
Anyway, I got it. Can't wait to read it.
All right, great. Where did it go? I think I probably accidentally closed it, but let me open up this one. I wanted to finish. So that's your advocacy article, right? It
Look
finished
at that
on
bookmark list. Woo! Damn.
Yes, yeah, I'm a busy guy, man. I got things going on. My people call your people. We'll do lunch.
We'll do lunch. Who's
right.
buying?
I don't know. You drinking?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So I wanted to talk about some of the MDOs that came out because we did cover the list a little bit on the last show. I know we're a little bit over on time, but I'm going to try to hurry this up. But a bunch more MDOs came down, and I just wanted to call out some of the names that were essentially affected beyond some of the So there was some other well-known names that got hammered on. One of them was actually this one. Let me bring up that other link. This is Greg Connolly was talking about it on Twitter the other day. It was Turning Point Brands.
Good.
Turning Point Brands, one of the big dogs. They actually paid a lot of money for their PMTA stuff. Hello, are you going to not open? I guess we're
It's
not going to.
thinking. It's thinking.
No, it's nothing spinning, John. Hold on one second. I'm trying to be quick about it here.
Relax. We don't worry about their time.
right,
You know that.
There we go. So this is the one about Turning Point Brands. So people aren't sure of who Turning Point is. They're actually involved with a lot of different products, not just vaping. But they spent 400 million. They did over 400 million in sales, and they spent a considerable amount of money to file their actual PMTA documents, and they got the same BS MDO issuance that everybody else got. Basically, a non explanation. You know, you might say, well, if people didn't put a whole lot of money behind their actual scientific study, that maybe they made them a little bit more of an easier target, low hanging fruit. These people spent bucks.
Yeah, they did.
Bucks, and they got their MDO wired out to them. But it's somewhere in here. It kind of stated. So they do a bunch of different stuff. They're also they do zigzag rolling papers.
Yeah.
But they represent Solace, the e-liquid brand Solace. I'm sure a lot of people know who that is. Vapor Beast, and online retail such as Vaporfy and Direct Vapor.
Direct Vapor.
So they do nicotine patches and other things, CBD products, snuff. They do a lot of stuff, but they got their MDO. Important to note. But let's go back to this one, because this one was actually a little bit more concerning, because I know that we said like Monster Labs got hammered on the last one, but some bigger names ended up in this list too. I think we talked about Buckshot. This is going to be a long list to go through, but these are all companies. So look at these names. I'm sure there's plenty that you probably recognize, and they all got their MDOs. Humble got hammered.
Humble.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite juice lines. J Vapes, Juice Roll Ups.
Lady Boss Vapors on there.
Yeah, Lady Boss Vapor got theirs on 9/8. Some of these I don't know and never even heard of them.
Mighty Vapors on there.
Well, I think we knew about Midwest Vape Supply, Mother's Milk,
Mountain Oak.
The list goes on and on. And Puff Labs got hit.
Woo, Puff Labs.
Some Ripe Vapes. I'm familiar with Ripe Vapes.
Oh, Ruthless is on there.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So it's pretty daunting to take a look at that list and just realize that all these companies and their products were given MDOs.
We had Ruthless on, and he went into detail on. They spent a lot of time and money getting there.
Look, Vapetasia.
Vapetasia's on.
A lot of people vape. Yep.
Pretty much everybody's gotten smacked with the MDO.
Mm-hmm. You know what I don't see on here? Is Vapecraft.
It's there.
Is
there. Did I miss it? Is it up here? Vapecraft right there.
Yeah, Vapecraft's on there. Well, fuck, those are big names. Ruthless is a big name too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I think the FDA said today that they still have 100,000 to 200,000 more PMTA applications for tobacco flavored products they're still reviewing.
Probably. I mean, yeah. I think some are still kind of in there, but we don't really know how well they're hanging on. We really have no idea until they go through another round or something like that. So, but I just wanted to point out those names. So it's impacting quite a few people. What becomes of this? I don't know. Right now we're not at the enforcement stage at this point. So these are all companies that got MDOs. That's pretty scary.
Very scary to see some of those names on there.
Anyhow, that's your news and advocacy for this Wednesday, 9/22. And we will be back again next week. Back to you, John, in the studio.
Live, our live correspondent out in Virginia. Oh, well, great. Thank you, Tim, for the news there, everyone. Thank you, everybody in chat today. We appreciate seeing you guys out there. And again, we stress it all the time. Share. Family, co-workers, And don't be pushy. Share facts, knowledge. Don't be a jerk about it. There are people out there that want to fight with you. Don't do it. Just share the facts and the knowledge that you know. But it's important that you just share. Oh wait, just share that stuff.
Yep.
Matthew, thank you for joining us tonight. It's great to get to know you a little bit and sharing that information. Like I said, I have all the links for Matthew. They're in the chat. And then once the show's over, I'll put those all back in there again so they'll be right at the top so people can find them real quickly. Thank you, Tom, my milk bag guy, and Brian there. Matthew, anything else you want to get out there before we head on out of here?
I mean, I think we covered everything pretty well. I appreciate you guys for what you do, and I appreciate you having me, and I hope other people will use my example and get the word out just like I'm trying to do. So.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm going to let Tom say his goodbyes to you, and then we'll work our way out, and then we'll work our way out of here. Tommy boy. I'm going to make you go first because we know why I'm making you go first. So.
I don't give a good rat's ass. You make me go first, second, third, fourth, or like whatever. I don't care. I'll say the same shit.
Say it, Tom.
Whatever Tim says.
Whatever Tim says.
All right, ahead, seriously. Matthew, thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to join us this evening. Thank you to everybody in chat, and I'll see all you guys next week.
Yeah. Brian, North Dakota in the house.
No, I just want to thank everyone for coming on. Sorry, I was just deleting things. No, I just want to thank everyone for like being in the chat and like watching the show and stuff. It's always good to see new people, fresh faces. Just chit-chatting with everyone. Matthew, thank you for coming on. I really, really appreciate it. It's always good to know where people's heads are at and what they are trying to do for us.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah. And our scholar, Mr. Tim.
Yeah, I was beat with a red pen as a child growing up. My mom was an English major. She told me, said use colorful words. Blue. No. Anyway, Matthew, absolutely. Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for sharing your story and showing people that there's a no-quit attitude in this industry and that you got to keep fighting for what you believe in any way, shape, or form you can do it. So I completely laud your efforts, sir, and don't give up that fight. We believe in you. And to the chat group, thank you guys every week. You make it all the more interesting to try to read the side conversations that are going on. We always have to reassure Curtis that he was not blocked, shadow banned, sent to the corner for 2 minutes, timeout, whatever, bro. Appreciate everybody that comes in and hangs out with us every week. So come back, and we'll keep fighting the fight here. We'll keep trying to get the message out. So thanks to everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Again, thank you again, Matthew, for your time. Thank you, everybody in chat. We'll see everybody again next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Same places. I'm going to broadcast this show again on my personal Facebook page. So I want to get the message out to the people that don't know what's going on, the non-vapors, the non-smokers. So join us again next Wednesday at 6 p.m. And thank you, boys, and we'll see everybody next week. And I'll hit the outro button.